Okay, this is Suzanne Tidkemeyer, formerly of No Longer Quivering Pathos, now just of myself. I tried to do a live video a little while ago. It wouldn't work. I'm having all kinds of problems with the internet here, so I'm going to try to do this filmed one and try to upload it, even though that doesn't always do well here in Costa Rica. I'm having nothing but problems with the internet. Thank you, Issei, who's now changed out my router 4 times. Anyway, I wanted to talk about suicide baiting, suicide, and Katie Joy's recent actions. Katie Joy of Without a Crystal Ball, or who I like to call Without a Moral Compass, because she does so many things that are just so utterly bizarre and weird that we just have to comment on them sometimes. I don't like having to actually do all these videos on her. I would rather just stick with Costa Rica. But when she does things like the other day, she threatened suicide. She posted a big long thing about how she was going offline for 4 days and how she felt pushed to the brink of suicide by everything. Now, keep in mind that she had doxed Creepshow Art not once, but twice. She has doxed Tina Alcaya. She's doxed other people. She's doxed a pile of people. Right now, Tati Westbrook is suing her for $5 million because she said some hateful things about Tati's husband. She called him a murderer, was one of the things. So that's all ongoing. And instead of doing what you would think, which would be just to shut up and get off the internet, which is what pretty much anybody would do, she just keeps going large on this. She just keeps saying the worst things of all time. So this apparently, I was actually worried about this suicide thing she posted. Why? Because so many people in this time frame have committed suicide. Right here in Tama, I know 2 people recently who've committed suicide, whose businesses went under. They had no more money, and I guess it just seemed like a better way out for them than hanging in there for the rest of this COVID thing to be over and start again. It's hard to start again, and that's the only real sympathy I have for Katie. Is I know that when this shakes out, however it shakes out, she is going to have to begin again. And I think she's probably done that several times from what I can tell in her life. Okay, so she did the suicide cop out, suicide baiting, where she posted all this crap about being pushed to the edge of suicide, like James Charles, like other creators. And um, instead of actually copying to the thing she's doing, has done, and said, gee, I'm sorry, and then getting offline, or just saying, gee, I'm sorry, I won't ever do that again, she brings out the S word, the suicide bait. Okay? I just finished watching Sherelle's video about this, and BJJ Comic Nuts videos on this too. And all I can say is, in this time frame when so many people have committed suicide, so many people are depressed, so many people have gone broke. There's so many people that have just lost everything because of this pandemic, that to be playing this suicide card is pretty vile. But nevertheless, people are concerned. She claims that people called the police and they showed up at her door, unmasked, to expose her child to possible COVID. This is a woman that has been trotting around hair salons, getting plastic surgery, Botox, whatever, going into audio video stores and buying equipment. I mean, there's all kinds of things that she has done. She is not staying at home, yet she has the nerve to throw shade at the police who were actually concerned about her. And then last night, she complained pretty copiously about having the cops show up, besides the fact that she said they were unmasked. Unmasked. Itchy. So, I'm rambling. I'm sorry, my asthma's bad. Um, she said that we should not ever contact the police when she does these things. Here's the thing, that is really the only logical thing you can do when someone you know threatens suicide. It's serious enough that it should be taken seriously, because we never know who is the narcissist who's throwing it as bait to get out of trouble or to deflect, and who is serious. We just don't know. Particularly, like I said, in this time where so many people have done this because they're just depressed or their whole world is falling apart. This is a time when this is a threat to be taken way more seriously. It's not something to ever just push aside, haha, because we don't know who's serious and who isn't. You know, Queen used to have a song about this called Don't Try Suicide. And the chorus used to make me laugh because it would say, Don't try suicide, nobody's worth it. Don't try suicide, nobody cares. And there's a lot of that to that. I mean, I've spoken before about this in other places about suicide. And you leave such a trail of broken people when you take that option. Everyone that loves you is just heartbroken. Everybody has to examine their hearts and say, how did I contribute to this? There's just so much hurt and anguish and destruction that follows in the wake of suicide. And I know sometimes it seems like nothing helps, but all I can say is when you hit the bottom, you can look up. It actually takes a lot of strength not to commit suicide. I'm not saying that people who commit suicide are cowards. No, not in any way, shape, or form. But anytime you feel that, reach out. Reach out to someone. Reach out to someone who cares about you, someone that loves you, that thinks you're awesome and worth it, and let them know so that they can help you get help. Because as I keep saying, it's a warning sign. Anybody that is talking about it is clearly thinking about it. We don't know who the serious ones are, so we have to. Most places I know, particularly Virginia, and I've seen this happen a number of times in Virginia with some of my friends, threaten suicide, the family calls the law, and you're in a 72-hour psych hold, which is the only really proper thing to happen. Most of the people I know who this has happened to haven't been actually genuinely suicidal. And a 72-hour hold that allows them to process their feelings with mental health professionals has been the best thing in the world for them. They've been able to come out and say, no, I was not really suicidal. I was just lashing out. But XYZ needs to change now in my life for me to make a better informed choice. So if someone around you is threatening suicide, take it seriously and get help involved. Don't think, oh, they're just being a drama queen. Well, and the other thing I want to talk about, I know we're coming up on her supposedly 4-day social media timeout where she wasn't going to do videos or do social media. She lasted less than a day on that, coming back to about the thing. We know she has a social media addiction. If you have a social media addiction, you know, I don't know why she's not using that as her out on her lawsuit, because it's pretty clear that that's one of the things that's driving most of her behavior. She, just like you would be angry at somebody for having cancer, you can't really be angry with people for having different, I'm just going to call them, like I said, different mental issues, emotional issues. Internet addiction is a real thing. And I think it's up there with sex addiction and everything else. And you need treatment for it. When you see yourself going that way, it is really hard because you'll be jonesing for getting online and getting all those hits and getting all your ego stroked. And it's pretty easy to see how that happens. You know, you've got isolation. You're isolated by the fact that you have a sick child. It's easy to get isolated when you're caring for a child with medical issues. It's very easily. Your friends pretty much drop you at that point. The only friends that you can really get are other adults who are dealing with a chronically ill child. And most of your attention is focused on that sick child. So whatever friends you have usually go bye-bye. I see so many times that people have done this and they've turned to the internet because they have no friends in real life. And they get some kind of sick payoff from the internet all the time. And it becomes an addiction. And when that becomes an addiction, people will say and do anything to excuse their bad behavior so they can still get that emotional payoff of whatever nice thing that they think the people are saying about them. They'll even lie. Doesn't matter if they become homeless. The only thing that matters is getting that narcissist supply, or even just supply, emotional supply, whatever that would be. Yeah, I got my notes here. I'm not going to go off the notes when I'm having asthma. And the last thing I wanted to say is I want to say something a little bit about Costa Rica since I've been doing Costa Rica as well. We've run across a little situation here yet again. And I kind of think it plays well into this whole suicide, mental health challenge thing. One of the big challenges about living here as a gringo is that you're always going to be perceived as wealthy, even if you aren't. I guess compared to Central American average wages, you're going to look wealthy. And because you are perceived as wealthy, there's always going to be a number of people that will try to prey upon you and your perceived wealth. Just like internet people will try to prey upon others. So, what happens is they'll try to worm their way into your life. They'll try to do this and that for you. And then when they're in like Flynn, and they think that you're their pet gringo. And the prices go up higher and higher as they do more and more stuff. We have had this situation the last couple of weeks here. My husband came across a guy at church, uh, Tico, that offered to train him. He's been doing personal training, and in the last 2 weeks, he's moved in. I'm less than thrilled with this, and I had to put my foot down. Um, it's hard to hire people here. I found that if you hire people to help you, you're better off either hiring a company and paying the company and having them, because there's so many labor laws here, and if you hire someone, you become responsible for their social security here. You have to pay them at the end of the year a extra month salary as a Christmas bonus. There's just all sorts of things that you have to pay. So it's much easier if you live here if you deal with a reputable company, like example, the company that does my pool. They put the pool in, they service it. I write them a check. I know they're guys, uh, but I don't have to pay anything further. I just pay the company once a month, and I don't have any problems with them. Unlike what I always call the Tico expert of all things. When you have the Tico expert of all things that thinks that they can do everything and will tell you they can do everything and they can't, and the prices just jump around. It's just better all the way around that if you don't hire like that. You just use companies and reputable people. You may pay a little more, but you're going to have a whole lot less problems in the long run. It's going to be a lot shorter problems. Your life will be a lot smoother for it. And you won't feel like somebody's viewing you as their personal pet gringo trying to shake you down for money. I mean, Jim does not feel that way about me. He just snuck in and snuck out. He feels differently. He wants to give all these guys a chance. And that's okay sometimes. But when you have them steal your wedding ring and other things happen, we had one named Helbert. I could tell you all about him just showing up and the insanity we went through with him. I am not a fan of that. Like I said, you got to be very careful who you hire here. And that's another little tidbit going in my book about Costa Rica. Just be real careful. And be careful about your internet predators and the ones that will scream that they're going to commit suicide. Always take that seriously. Always report it. Y'all have a great day.